Of course. Hello, my name is Anna, and today I want to talk about things that surprised me when I moved to the UK. Some culture differences between the United States and the United Kingdom. Because there were things I was prepared for, slang terms and stuff, and I've always been interested in Britishisms and differences between our cultures. But there was some stuff that I was not prepared for, that I was not expecting, and that surprised me. So I have a list and I want to get into that. So the first thing that surprised me about the UK happened almost immediately when I got off the plane, and I was parched and I didn't have a full water bottle, and I was just looking for a place to fill up my water bottle, and there were no drinking fountains anywhere to be seen in the airport, in any of the train stations, nothing. I asked so many people if there was a drinking fountain somewhere, and nobody could point me in the direction of one. And I have yet to find a drinking fountain in the UK in general. When I got here, I flew into London, so maybe there are other places in London or other places in the UK in general that do have them, but I live in Edinburgh, and no, there just aren't drinking fountains that I have found. Again, there may be some in like super touristy areas, but I kind of figure if they're not in the airport and the train stations, where are they? So that's weird because in America you find them everywhere. The second thing that surprised me about the UK, and that still kind of bothers me to this day, and I've lived here over a year, is that when you're at a restaurant or a pub or whatever, but usually it's like a restaurant or something, where you're sitting down and you get food or drinks or whatever, you have to ask for the bill. You have to like request the check. They will not come over and bring it to you, which can be really awkward if you're like waiting for a moment to signal the person and they're not paying attention or whatever. You're like, hey, I want to go now. So yeah, I just find that uncomfortable because I get that over here and in other European countries, it can be viewed as rude for the waiter or waitress or server at the bar to like bring your check over as though they're trying to hurry you out. But I'm just used to that. It doesn't, so it's just a cultural difference, but it's still, even after a year, I'm just like really uncomfortable asking for it. I will do it, but you know, it's a little bit weird. Okay, number 3 that is very different here, that I really liked, was that, and I don't even know how to explain it really, but you can like touch the ruins. With the University of Edinburgh, I audited 2 courses, one for semester 1 and one for semester 2. The course I audited for semester 1 was on Hadrian's Wall. So with that class, I was able to take a trip to Hadrian's Wall in England, which was really cool, and we got to see a lot of different Roman forts, like the ruins of them. But what I found so surprising was that you can touch the ruins. Like, we went to Corbridge Roman Fort, and it's like the ruins of this Roman fort, and you can climb on them. You can touch them. It's really weird, because in the States, if there was something like that, you wouldn't be able to touch it. It would just be like, for preservation purposes, you wouldn't be able to climb all over it and stuff. So it's kind of cool, and I guess it shows that even if you have visitors climbing all over it and touching it, it doesn't degrade it that much because they're still there. So, and that was built in the 2nd century, so yeah, it's cool, different, but cool. The 4th thing that surprised me about the UK is the sense of style and makeup trends here. I sort of fell into the category of people who have this idea of British fashion and stuff from like Pinterest. So when I picture like British fashion, I think tweed, you know, tartan, woolen stuff and like a little bit preppy, a little bit like dark academia type stuff. That's what I picture, and that is a totally like idealized, it's even like upper middle class, like wealthy country attire. It's not like, obviously it's not for everyday all the people. It's not like they're stuck in a bubble, but it was just really surprising to me the difference, because the athleisure stuff has made it across the pond and not in a good way, in my personal opinion. You know, that's just how it is out here. It's a lot of polyester, Primark, H&M, Topshop, ASOS, you know, the works. So it's not really different in that sense from the States, but it's a lot of athleisure stuff, a lot more than I thought. And in a similar vein with makeup trends, makeup, the way that women and girls here do their makeup is very different from the States, and I didn't realize that it would be so different. But I guess the big thing here is that fake tan is like all the rage. It's girls love their fake tan. They just some of them go a little overboard and they look a little orange, but yeah, it's a very heavy-handed makeup look. I mean, obviously you can tell I'm not really into the heavy-handed look, and that's fine. I don't care if people are, but it's very different here. And the biggest thing I will say that is alarming about British makeup is the square black eyebrows, like literally squared off, and like I don't understand. I really don't. I don't get it, because you don't look like the fashion models who have dark brows and light hair or whatever that look is. But it's weird, the squared off thing. Like, what? This is cool here. Culture, man. It's weird. Okay, another thing, I think this is number 6 of the things that surprised me about the UK was when I first got here. Like I said, I landed in London, and so my first experience in the United Kingdom was in London, and I was surprised by how nice the people in London were, because I've never been to New York City either, and I think that that's on the same level of like population and kind of hustle bustle vibe. I've lived in many cities. I've lived in Boston, Los Angeles, Seattle, so I've lived in big cities before. But I was surprised by how nice people in London were, and I just mean that it was probably the most stressful day of my life when I came to the UK. I had 3 large suitcases with me that was really difficult to haul by myself, because I was by myself, and I didn't know anybody. I moved to the UK completely alone, and I mean, I can talk about that at a later date, but there were a couple of times I was trying to get on and off trains, and I was really struggling with my luggage, and more than one person like asked, you know, "You're right, love, you need some help," and they were just like so nice, and it just made me feel like, I mean, I was already kind of raw after having gone through a long flight and this whole stressful thing, leaving everything behind and being afraid, and so like that, their kindness, just, it made me a little bit emotional, just how kind they were trying to help me. It was a ridiculous day, and I'm so glad that that's in my past. But I was just surprised, because I assumed that people in London would be like people in New York, and I only know anything from like film, and they're always like kind of depicted as these snobby, uppity, too busy to care kind of people. And in my experience, it wasn't like that in London. So that's the only time I've been to London. I would like to go back and actually explore the city a bit. when the corona is not an issue. But yeah, I was surprised, and happily so. Number 7 on the things that surprised me was how freaking small the grocery stores are here. It's not like a grocery store, I guess. It's the shop, you know. It's not wrong what they say about America. In America, everything is huge, even the people. Yeah, we like our gigantic supermarkets where you can get everything you need. Here in the UK, it's not like that. I think part of it is because everything is sort of close quarters, and at least in the bigger cities like Edinburgh, I mean, Edinburgh is not that big comparatively, but it's the capital of Scotland, so big enough. But you don't have to have a car to get around in Edinburgh, really, so it's like you go to the shop to get your dinner or whatever, you know, like smaller loads of groceries at a time. But sometimes trying to find specific things has been so frustrating. Like trying to find pumpkin, like canned pumpkin, because I like baking and I like autumn and I like autumn baking, so finding canned pumpkin was really difficult. And like the reason I learned how to make pie crust is because I couldn't find a pre-made one in the stores. So they're just smaller here, and it's not like a bad thing, but it is something to get used to because it's just different. Okay, and then my last 2 surprising things in this list about the UK are Scotland specific. The first thing about Scotland is that haggis is good. I came here fully expecting to think it was disgusting, because you read about what it is. It's like all the throwaway bits of lamb, and it's like not nice ingredients when you read the list. And everybody knows about haggis, and everyone's like, oh yeah, haggis, you gotta try that when you go to Scotland. And so obviously I wanted to try it because it's part of the cultural experience, but it's actually good. Like, I'm not a big meat eater anyway, just naturally I'm not really fond of the taste of meat, different types of fleshy things, but haggis is good. Like, and not all haggis is created equal. Not all haggis is as good as others. So some places you go, it's like, eh. But the stuff I was able to buy at the shop in little pucks and eat them with breakfast, yeah, it's good. There is a very strong nationalist vibe here. People in Scotland are very proud in general, but a large portion of them seem to be very proud to be Scottish. Now, not all of them, because there are a fair few that refer to themselves, even though they are born and bred in Scotland, they refer to themselves as British firstly and then Scottish secondarily. So it's not everyone that has this, you know, Scotland forever thing going on. But there is, especially in the current political climate, there is a growing, or seem to be a growing, nationalist sentiment. And along those same lines, it's sort of an underbelly of Scottish socio-political climate, but there is a slight anti-Anglo sentiment in Scotland, I will say. It's not really like talked about, it's not really out in the open that much, but as a medievalist, I find this very interesting because my era that I'm most interested in, and the era that I wrote my dissertation about, is the early Anglo-Saxon period, so the 600s, the 700s, in Scotland and Northern England specifically. But it's just, I just find it fascinating that even still, after all these centuries of back and forth between England and Scotland, there is still this visible divide between the two. I just thought that because, you know, they're all part of the United Kingdom, It's not really the case. There is definitely some nuance here, and I'm not saying that all Scots, all Scottish people dislike the English people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's some interesting nuance, and it's just it's a crazy time to be alive. It's a crazy time to be here, and I enjoy learning about all these differences, and yeah, it's cool to be surprised by cultural differences. So that's it for the things that surprised me about the UK when I moved here, and hope you learned something, hope you were entertained, and thank you for watching. I plan to upload more videos along the history, culture, especially my experience in the UK, and of course, writing, because that is life. That is my life, is writing. So until next time.